Hi everyone, I'm so excited for today's video because I have with me my Chikuhodo MK-2 Cherry Blossom Powder Brush. Now, I bought this off of fudebeauty.com, so if you are interested, I'm gonna put a link down in the description box to this brush so that you can go and check it out for yourself. So we all know by now that the cherry blossom is quite beloved in Japan. Now, not only are they the indicators that spring has sprung, but they are also a symbol of beauty, renewal, and the ephemeral nature of life. More like as a metaphor for life and death. I don't want to sound morbid, but it is what it is because, cherry blossoms bloom in such a short duration of time, like around 2 weeks. So it's just like a symbol of how short our lives are here on earth. So to have this brush with me and to use it, it's like a gentle reminder that I have to live vicariously, according to my dreams, according to my fantasies, according to my wants, and according to my needs. Each of us is given talents, and to make passion out of our talents, it is what enables us to live our life to the fullest. Now, the main reason why I actually bought this is because I actually use beauty blenders and velour puffs to set powders on the face, so I don't have a lot of powder brushes in my collection. But ever since the pandemic happened, I was thinking, in my head, how I could actually sanitize my tools effectively and fast while I am at work. And I found that I have actually, because of time constraints in between jobs, I found that it takes so much time and effort to actually sanitize a beauty blender and a velour puff. And because of that, I decided to add more powder brushes to my collection because it's actually easier to clean them and to keep them sanitized at the same time. Now, the other reason why I decided to purchase the Chikuhodo MK-2 Cherry Blossom Powder Brush is because back in January, I was actually planning to celebrate my 39th birthday in Tokyo this year, watching the cherry blossoms for myself because I have been wanting to see the cherry blossoms in Tokyo for the longest time, and it just never really seemed to happen. My birthday is not until April 11th, and usually the cherry blossoms bloom between the end of March to mid-April. But this year it's quite different because I decided to bloom earlier. And I actually planned to do this last year for my 38th birthday, but again, it wasn't possible. So since traveling is still not an option at the moment for health reasons, having the Chikuhodo MK-2 Cherry Blossom Powder Brush with me is one way of celebrating the cherry blossom season and also my 39th birthday. Now, when I got this brush in my home, it did not come in its own golden gift box. Now, I was expecting that because it didn't show in the description that this actually came with a box. And it's no big deal for me because I am not going to be storing this in a box anyway because I'm going to be bringing this with me when I go to work. But truthfully, I was a little bit frustrated. I wish they had some sort of box for this brush because it would just add to a much more luxurious feel for it. But again, it's no big deal for me because I can always buy my own box for the brush. The brush arrived in a plastic packaging like this, and of course the Komado Fude seal is here, so we know that that's authentic. And this was actually secured in a piece of cardboard and wrapped in nice Japanese paper when it was delivered. Now for the price, the Chikuhodo MK-2 Cherry Blossom Powder Brush retails for $173 at fudebeauty.com. Now, the ferrule and the handle of the Chikuhodo MK-2 Cherry Blossom Powder Brush looks very shiny, which is completely different from the Chikuhodo MK-UM Plum Powder Brush. So I'm gonna get it out here, and I'm gonna show you guys the ferrule of the Plum brush, and the handle here is actually quite matte. So the shiny nature of the handle of this Cherry Blossom Powder Brush actually adds a different dimension to the brush, which I actually like. I have to say though that this is one of the most beautiful Maki-e designs of cherry blossoms that I have ever seen. Now, as you can see here, the colors are absolutely stunning. You see hints of gold, violet, and pink, and very powdery color pinks. So I really like that. And it's like one full branch of a cherry blossom tree, and you can see blossoms, and you can actually see blossoms in full bloom, and you can actually see petals flying in the air. And I actually like that because it reminds me of watching, a lot of these anime shows growing up wherein when there are two lovers and they have a nice romantic scene, you see all these petals floating around in the air, when they're about to kiss or when they're about to embrace. So this is a nice attention to detail, so this actually makes the brush a little bit romantic for me. So the brush head design of the Chikuhodo Cherry Blossom Powder Brush is quite different from the Plum brush, but I'm gonna talk about that in a little teeny tiny bit. But the brush head design here is still round and flat, although it appears to have a much more paddle-like appearance. And it still looks quite dense. It feels quite dense here in the belly, but it's much more fluffier. So let's get the Plum brush here and let's put them side by side. So as you can see here, the Cherry Blossom Powder Brush actually has longer bristles than the Plum brush. And one of their main differences is that if we just twirl the brush around, the Cherry Blossom Powder Brush here on my left hand actually has a much more airier bristle design, while the Plum brush has a much more denser brush head design. And in saying that, the Chikuhodo Cherry Blossom Powder Brush will actually deliver a much more delicate amount of powder products on the face, while the Plum brush will actually deliver a much more denser amount of pigment on the face. Okay, so now it's time to put the Chikuhodo MK-2 Cherry Blossom Powder Brush to the test. Okay, so what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna apply some foundation on the left side of my face, and I'm gonna keep my right side bare because we'll see how well the Chikuhodo Cherry Blossom Powder Brush will actually apply powder products on skin which has foundation and on natural skin. Okay, so I'm quite happy now with the coverage of my foundation. So I'm gonna dip my MK-2 Cherry Blossom Powder Brush into some loose powder, and I'm just gonna gently press it onto my skin. Okay, so as you can see, it's actually able to deliver a nice amount of coverage on my skin, and it's also able to set my foundation quite well. So I'm quite happy with that. And I'm also quite happy that it's able to deliver a diffused amount of product without making my skin look cakey. So now I'm trying to apply the powder on my right side of my face, wherein I don't have foundation. Okay, so it's actually able to deliver quite a good amount of powder as well. Now without like applying a ton of product. So I like that because it's very important for me because after all, like, you know, I work in film and TV and we work for like 12 hours at a time. So you're constantly retouching. And because of the airy nature of this brush, I am able to apply a minute amount of powder so that I'm able to build the powder slowly. So I like that. And I do have to say, this is again a very soft brush. It feels very luxurious on the skin. Super soft, amazing. Okay, so now I'm gonna get some of this powder foundation here, and it's able to pick up some product. So this is great. And let's see if it applies well into my skin. Because the thing with powder foundation is I'm quite careful with them, because if I use a very dense brush, I'm gonna pick up a ton of product and I'm gonna deliver a ton of product into the skin, and that's gonna make the skin look cakey. But I'm glad that with this brush, I am able to apply like the product without losing the natural sheen of my skin. Frankly, I was quite worried that I might not be able to use this brush when applying powder foundation, because sometimes with powder foundation, they are pressed extremely hard into the pan. And because of the soft nature of this brush, it doesn't really break down the product on the pan. So I was worried that it might not be able to pick up product, but I'm so happy that this was able to pick up like the exact amount of product that I need to apply the powder foundation onto my skin. All right, so that's great. So now what I want to try is the finishing powder. So this is Torre from Guerlain Meteorites. Now, according to the description on Chikuhodo.com, you can actually use the Cherry Blossom Powder Brush for finishing powders. So I'm just gonna pick up some of the powder here from the tin, and I'm just gonna apply it onto my cheeks. Okay, so I have observed that this brush actually helps in applying a very delicate amount of finishing powder into the skin, and I like that because it's actually making me look quite glowy at the moment. Because, you know, sometimes with Guerlain Meteorites, it's quite difficult to pick them up, and sometimes it's also quite difficult to diffuse them on the face if you are using a much more denser or a smaller brush. But with this brush, because of its airy nature, it enables me to actually apply a much more diffused color and pigment on the skin. And I really like that because right now I'm looking quite radiant without looking too shiny, and I like that. And I still love the scent of the Guerlain Meteorites, like super. Okay, so I want to add some color to my cheeks now, and I am going to be using this color from the Sailor Moon X Color Pop collection. This is called Cat's Eye, and this is a very nice delicate pink with some shimmer. And as you can see, there is no product disturbance at all. So that's what I like about the squirrel brushes from Chikuhodo. It doesn't disrupt the powder on the pan. And this actually applies a much more diffused color on the cheeks in comparison to the Chikuhodo MK-2 Plum powder brush. I'm gonna put a link down below so that you can also see that brush in action, and you can also see my reviews for that. And I'm actually liking how well I can actually deliver a much more diffused amount of coloring with this brush. Oh, this is very pretty. I like brushes like these. So if you have very well pigmented blush products in your collection and you're having trouble actually like blending them out on their skin, having this brush can actually help you in applying a much more diffused look on your cheeks. Okay, so now I want to add some bronzer. So this is from NARS and this is a pressed bronzer. So let's try to see if this brush will actually work. And I can see that there's some product on the brush head now. So let's see if this will apply the color extremely well on the cheeks. So I can actually see some warmth on my cheeks now. So if you want to apply your bronzer in a bronzer kind of way, this brush might not be able to do that. But if you want to apply your bronzer in a much more diffused manner, this brush will actually work. Okay, so I'm looking quite radiant at the moment, which I actually like. And that's the main reason why I actually used a matte foundation on my left side on my face and a powder foundation on my right side, because I'm going to be using a lot of products with a lot of shimmer and shine. So just so that we have balance on the skin, so that's very important. So according to fudebeauty.com and chikuhodo.com, you can actually use this brush for pressed or loose powders, also for finishing powders and illuminating powders. So I was a bit curious with that, and I actually decided to pull out my very old illuminating powder from Laura Mercier. This is no longer in the market. This is called Candlelight, and I haven't tried it though, but I think their illuminating powders are now in pressed form. But for this video, I just want to see how well this powder brush will actually apply this illuminating powder. And although I don't use this now for work, I just keep it there in my collection, I want to see how well this will apply illuminating powders in the cheeks. And I can see it now that it is able to apply a very delicate blanket of shimmer powders into the skin, which I actually prefer. As you can see here, oh, this is so pretty. Because the thing now with like illuminating powders and shimmer powders is that when you apply it on the skin, you get this like, because they're like in pressed form, you apply it with a very strong stripe on your cheeks, and I don't really like that. I actually much more prefer to apply like illuminating powders or shimmer powders in a much more veil-like kind of way, and I'm glad to know that this brush actually does that. And I kind of actually miss this powder. So I wish that they would release it in like powder form again, because right now their illuminating powders are in pressed form. Alright, I think that's it for me today. I hope that you enjoyed this video of me presenting the Chikuhodo MK-2 Cherry Blossom Powder Brush. And I do apologize for the change in lighting, because I started this video when the sun came out and all of a sudden it got overcast. But I'm just so glad that it didn't rain because I'm able to finish this video. So anywho, if you have any more questions about the products that I used today, and if you have any more questions about the Chikuhodo MK-2 powder brush, please leave them down in the comments box below and let's have a conversation about this. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're having a good day wherever you are. Bye bye.